For KT56, 85 pounds of material is needed for this test. The material will be sampled behind a paver and no short-term aging is needed. Place the warm field sample onto the splitting table. Split into approximately 10 3,750 gram samples. Split and perform a KT39 test when running KT56. Place the 10 split samples into an oven set at the high end of the compaction range for the mixture. Place the gyratory equipment into the oven to bring it up to a working temperature. Following KT58, mold one sample to 95 millimeters plus or minus 5. The target air void content is 7% plus or minus 0.5%. Allow the sample to cool and perform the KT15 procedure 3. If trial does not meet height and air void criteria, adjust the weight of material or adjust the height to reach criteria. If meeting criteria, mold additional samples. Once all samples have been made, perform KT15 procedure 3 on all samples. 6 samples are needed for this test. Sort samples into 2 subsets of 3, so the average air void of each set is approximately equal. Take the unconditioned set, place it onto a flat shelf until ready to be broken. The conditioned subset will be conditioned before breaking. Samples are required to reach a saturation of 70 to 80% by using vacuum saturation. A perforated plate is required at the bottom of the vacuum canister. Pour potable water so that it covers the sample by 1 inch. A rule of thumb is the first knuckle of your index finger. The sample is then subjected to vacuum to reach 70 to 80% saturation. Verify the weight of the sample to calculate the saturation of the sample. Roll on a damp towel, then weigh the sample. If saturation is not met, place the sample back into the vacuum chamber, continue vacuum, and recheck until 70 to 80% is reached. If over 80%, discard the sample. Once 70 to 80% saturation has been reached, place the sample into a room temperature water bath. Condition the other 2 samples in the same fashion as the previous sample. Once finished, place them into the same water bath and obtain a weight in water for each specimen. Place a single sheet of plastic wrap onto a scale. Zero the scale. Remove the sample from the water bath, roll on the damp towel, and place onto the scale. Record the weight of the sample. Perform the same on the other 2 samples. Verify the saturation of all 3 samples with recorded weights. If any are outside the 70 to 80% range, make an additional sample and saturate following the same procedure. Wrap the specimens in plastic wrap and place them into a plastic bag with 10 milliliters of water. Samples are to be placed into a frost-free freezer at -18 degrees Celsius, plus or minus 5 degrees, for a minimum of 16 hours. After 16 hours, remove the samples from the freezer and place into a hot water bath at 60 degrees Celsius, plus or minus 1 degree. Remove the plastic wrap and let samples continue to sit in the water bath until 24 hours, plus or minus an hour, has elapsed. Next, measure the height and diameter of the unconditioned samples and record. Place the unconditioned samples into a room temperature water bath for 2 hours, plus or minus 10 minutes. Proceed to test samples in the load frame with a split tension device installed. Be careful to seat the sample properly into the split tension device before testing the sample. Run the machine until the maximum load has been achieved and record the results. Place the conditioned samples into a room temperature water bath for 2 hours, plus or minus 10 minutes. Note, ice may be added to the water no longer than 15 minutes. Record the weight of the samples individually while submerged. Remove each sample and roll on a damp towel. Place the sample on the scale and record the weight. Proceed to measure the height and diameter of the samples. Record the measurements. Proceed to test samples in the load frame with the split tension device installed. Be careful to seat the sample properly into the split tension device before testing the sample. Run the machine until the maximum load has been achieved and record the results. After recording the maximum compressive strength, remove the specimen from the split tension device and pull apart. Record and inspect for stripping or broken aggregates. Calculate the tensile strength ratio by dividing the average of the 3 conditioned samples' tensile strengths by the average of the unconditioned strengths. The TSR ratio should be at least 80% or greater to be passing.